Welcome to the Earth Chronicles. Today's presentation is on what is referred to as a global reset of the world's monetary and financial system. There are rumors circulating on the internet regarding a reset of the United States financial system. This has been talked about for years, but now we have individuals saying it is going to take place today, June 23rd, 2020, and we will not even notice that it has taken place. Well, I have a bridge in the desert that is for sale if anyone is interested. I will start with the basics and try to explain what is going on. With the birth of our great nation, the United States Constitution is explicit on our monetary system. It is a bimetallic currency of gold and silver coin with a silver standard where 371.25 ounces of silver is contained in the original silver dollar, which is the same dollar of the Constitution. This is all spelled out in the Monetary Act of 1792. A constitutional amendment is the only thing that can lawfully change our monetary system, and one has never been made. The original stands. The Monetary Act of 1792 was written by Alexander Hamilton, who is not whom most consider him to be. He has done more harm to the United States than any other single person. When he wrote the act, he fixed the exchange rate between gold and silver at a rate of 15 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. You cannot fix the rate between the two metals. The rate must be allowed to float in a free market. When you fix the rate, you are literally and figuratively fixing the system to not work properly. The bankers are given free rein. And Hamilton knew this to be the case. If you read all he wrote on the subject, including speeches before Congress, you'll find he said one thing and did another. He knew that fixing the rate would give the bankers the upper hand. In the beginning of our country's history, there was always a big fight between hard money advocates and those who wanted paper money. The elite have always been for paper money. Honest people are for honest money. It is a detailed history that we cannot cover here. Nevertheless, the Constitution refers to paper money by the term bills of credit, which are not allowed. In 1861, the Civil War began. Whenever there is war, you can be assured there will be inflation of the money supply to pay the merchants of death. And this is exactly what happened. Some believe that the Rothschilds were behind the war to try to gain control of the United States. During the war, the Treasury issued the famous greenbacks, paper money printed by the U.S. Treasury, which is against the mandates of the Constitution. At the time, Salmon Chase was the Secretary of the Treasury. Under his leadership, the Treasury began printing United States notes to finance the war. He held passed the Legal Tender Acts. Chase later became a Supreme Court judge and presided in the case of Hepburn versus Griswold in 1870, which declared certain parts of the Legal Tender Acts to be unconstitutional, specifically the part that stated that United States notes, i.e. paper money or bills of credit, were legal tender. Chase later admitted that his passage of the act was one of the worst decisions he or anyone else has ever made regarding our monetary system. When the legal tender decision was reversed after the appointment of new justices in 1871 and 1872, Chase prepared a very able dissenting opinion. It was too little too late. The damage had already been done. In 1913, the national banking system Chase helped create was replaced by the Federal Reserve, which is composed of elite bankers from around the world. It is not part of the federal government. It is a private enterprise. Paul Warburg of the German banking house of Warburg wrote the Federal Reserve Act on J.P. Morgan's Jekyll Island. Read the book Jekyll Island for all the details. At first, Federal Reserve notes were backed by gold and silver. Nevertheless, they were still unconstitutional, as the Constitution states that only gold and silver are legal tender, and bills of credit, i.e. paper money, are not, even if partially backed by gold. Once again, we cannot delve into all the details regarding the Federal Reserve and what has transpired since their creation and the present day situation. However, just the fact that the Fed admits that since it took control, the purchasing power of the dollar has lost 96% of its value is proof enough. This is one of the reasons why there is so much debt today. Treasury bonds are debt that pays interest, while Federal Reserve notes are debt that pays no interest. For example, say you go into a bank and want to borrow $1,000. The bank gives you a check or opens an account that says you have $1,000 that a minute ago you did not have. Where did they get the money to give you? Did they take it out of someone else's account? No. Did it come out of their account? No. Then where did it come from? They created it on the spot by putting it to writing. It is all funding money, notes on a ledger. It does not represent real wealth, it represents debt, monetized debt. And even more ominous is the fact that the banker did not create the interest to service the debt. That is why the debt continues to grow each year, to pay off the interest rate charges that accrue ad nauseum. It is a vile and pernicious system that takes from the many and gives to the few. So, just what is this reset that everyone is talking about? There are those who claim, including bankers and other elite, who work at the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, that the U.S. dollar cannot continue to be the reserve currency of the world. They want to issue a type of standard drawing right, which is the IMF's version of paper money, and have it partially backed by gold. This would still be unconstitutional for the United States, and it would not work anyways. Either all the money is real or it isn't. All the money is either sound or it isn't. Honest money of gold and silver is just and sound. Recall the Fed admits that the purchasing power of the dollar has lost 96% of its value. This is why there is so much debt and why prices keep rising higher. The more money the Fed prints, the more money there is chasing after the same amount of goods, causing Federal Reserve notes to lose purchasing power. Any type of global reset will not make things better for we the people. Have the elite ever done anything for the people? No. They take from the many and they give to the few elite families that control the entire world. Why would they want to exchange a new dollar for an old dollar, as some have claimed? What does that gain them, and or what does that gain us? Nothing. It's absurd. The way the bankers would initiate a reset that helps them is to say that you have to bring in $10 and you will receive one new dollar. This is similar to what Roosevelt did in the 30s when he called in gold to be exchanged for paper money, i.e. Federal Reserve notes. At that time, Federal Reserve notes could be exchanged for gold. So what Roosevelt did was to steal the people's gold in exchange for worthless money. There is supposedly 260 million ounces of gold within the Treasury and or the banking system. Nonetheless, that gold is owned by we the people. The Constitution is a trust document whereby we the people elected government officials to act as trustees for the people who are the beneficiaries of that trust. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the beneficiaries, we the people. We should demand that the gold be returned to its rightful owners. And legislation must be passed that calls for a balanced budget. If the budget is not balanced, then the Treasury has to create more debt, Treasury bonds, to fund the deficit. Then there is the issue of all the debt floating around. For starters, any of the debt on the Fed's books should be canceled. Student loan debt and mortgages can be rewritten in a fair and honest manner. Next, the tax haven for churches, especially the Catholic Church, should be done away with. It is one of the greatest scams ever dreamed up. How can we be so naive? It would raise billions of dollars overnight. Why should they not pay their fair share? Look at what they have done to our children. And they get a free get-out-of-jail card as well? We are not playing a board game here. This is the real deal. It is a matter of life and death. Now, the outline above does not even touch the surface of what needs to be done if there was to be a U.S. reset to gold and silver coin, let alone one for the entire world. There are many pieces of legislation that would need to be passed, and the Supreme Court should definitively weigh in on the question of legal tender. The U.S. dollar is the reserve currency of the world. You cannot fix a system overnight that has run rampant for decades, but it could be done within the next 5 to 10 years. It would take much cooperation, but it could be done nonetheless. Each year, a little bit can be added or changed. Because the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency of the world, the most important part of any new system is that the cure is not worse than the disease, as that would cause chaos around the world, which is not what we want or need. Look at what has been going on lately with protests and riots. So that's all I have to say about the false rumors making the rounds on the internet about a reset supposedly occurring today. It is highly unlikely that there is any truth to the rumors. Nevertheless, I do believe that the coronavirus has a monetary and financial aspect to it. Look, we are not at fault that the monetary system is falling apart. The virus did it all. Sounds like the devil made them do it.